I always believed that love was fragile and easily broken, but I never thought it could shatter so violently. The day I discovered David's betrayal was the day my heart turned to ice. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when I stumbled upon the messages, photos and sweet nothings exchanged between him and another woman. The world around me blurred as the reality sank in. I had been living a lie, and the truth was a knife cutting deep into my soul. As I stood in our kitchen, the sun dipping low and casting long shadows, I felt a surge of rage mixed with sorrow. I was no longer the woman who had laughed with him over dinner or shared dreams of a future. No, a darker version of myself emerged, fueled by betrayal. This was not about revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity. I decided to host a last supper for David, a final meal before his life unraveled. I poured my heart into preparing his favorite dishes: roasted chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, and a decadent chocolate cake. Each chop of the knife and stir of the pot felt cathartic, as if I were conjuring a spell to bind him to me one last time. When David walked through the door, the meal's aroma wrapped around him like a warm embrace. He smiled, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. We chatted about trivial matters, but I could see the flicker of guilt in his eyes, a shadow lurking behind his laughter. It only fueled my resolve. As we sat down to eat, I poured us generous glasses of red wine, its deep color reminiscent of the blood that would soon be shed. I raised my glass, my heart pounding in anticipation. "To us," I said, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. He clinked his glass against mine, oblivious to the darkness lurking behind my facade. With each bite, I watched him savor the meal, his eyes lighting up with pleasure while mine were clouded with a tempest. I had added a special ingredient to the chicken, something that would ensure this dinner would be unforgettable. As we moved to dessert, I felt the tension build like a coiled spring ready to snap. "David," I began, my voice steady despite the chaos within, "do you remember the first meal we had together?" He nodded, a nostalgic smile creeping onto his face. "You said it was the best food you'd ever tasted." I leaned in closer, my heart racing. "Tonight, I wanted to make something special for you." His laughter echoed in the room, but it felt hollow. I watched him take a bite of the chocolate cake, the sweetness suffocating. As he chewed, I could see the realization dawning in his eyes. The color drained from his face, and I relished the moment. "Is something wrong?" I asked innocently, feigning concern. He gasped, his hand clutching his throat. Panic filled the air as he struggled to breathe. "What did you do?" His voice was barely a whisper, laced with betrayal and fear. "Just giving you a taste of the poison you fed me," I replied, my tone cold and calm. I felt a rush of exhilaration as he gasped for breath, the power of the moment washing over me like a wave. As he collapsed to the floor, clutching his chest, I felt no remorse. The weight of my heartache lifted, replaced by a twisted sense of freedom. I knelt beside him, watching the life drain from his eyes, and whispered, "This is your last supper, David. May you find peace in the darkness you created." When the silence enveloped the room, I stood up, dusting my hands as if shaking off the remnants of a bad dream. I had transformed from a scorned woman into a ghost of vengeance, and in that moment I finally felt alive. I walked away from the mess I had created, leaving the remnants of our love behind, a final meal that had sealed his fate and freed me from my own chains. The Last Supper had been served, and I was both the chef and the executioner.